Hello and welcome to episode 26 of Buxton Barrow Man, where I go through Buxton's history and clean up the town at the same time. Today I'll be talking about the history and the future of this horrible eyesore right in the centre of town, our very own shopping centre. Now, for those of you watching who don't live or have never lived in Buxton, first of all, hello and welcome. How on earth did you find this video? And secondly, the shopping centre in Buxton is located opposite the train station and behind the Springs High Street, right here and very visible for all to see. Now, before the shopping centre was built, the land use was rather different. As you can see here, the site used to be home to allotments, industrial buildings, another station, as well as many little sidings and sheds. Over the years, the industrial buildings changed around. The 1960s led to the Midland station, the one at the bottom, being closed and demolished along with a fair amount of the sidings. And then came the 1980s. Although Britain might have conceived the idea of a shopping centre, the Americans perfected the concept and caused a worldwide fad. If a town wanted to keep up with the times, you needed one of these capitalist temples. And that's exactly what Buxton had lined up in its new once-in-a-generation redevelopment plans. The layout of the shopping centre in Buxton was simple. A big main entrance would plough its way through Miller's Cafe and the extension of the Royal Exchange. It then followed around the backside of the High Street in an L shape with a connection to Marks and Spencer's, who had extended their store, I believe, in the early 80s, and at the end would be an anchor store. This is a term used by the retail world for a big name brand that should be a staple for the shopping centre and in theory never leave. Our anchor store in this instance is Waitrose, well, at least from 2006 onwards. Construction of the Springs had a few challenges. First of all, there was a lot of land to clear, and then there was the River Wye to deal with, as the part of the shopping centre was built on top of the river. And then there was also a little incident of which a crane fell onto the structure when it was being constructed. Thankfully it wasn't a serious incident. But the shopping centre opened in 1985, and from varying sources online, a lot of people talk positively of this time. And I do understand why. It was still a modern, flashy concept, a bit of the big city in our little town. And the regeneration didn't stop at the shopping centre. A few years later, in 1987, Station Road was built to bypass driving down the Springs, and later, in 1991, pedestrianisation of the streets began and of course has stuck around since. An extension was added onto the corner of the shopping centre in 2000, which is the store where Next resides currently. But now we're fast approaching the 40th anniversary of the shopping centre, and it's time for a change. Shopping centres, as we know, are failing all around the world, and Buxton is no exception. Empty stores are a common sight. I'm just interrupting myself here as editor me. I would like to show you guys the state of some of the stores actually in the Springs. However, I need permission from the council to record and take pictures, and as the security guard told me, I had a higher chance of seeing Elvis.
What?
So we'll just have to do with these dated pictures from Buxton Museum. The shopping centre has been plagued with high rents for some time, driving potential stores out, as well as the obvious online retail giants who have put a major pressure on the UK's retail industry. Buxton's just not big enough to push its way through these problems, so it's time for a change and to look towards the future. The future involves mixed use, more food and entertainment, maybe even hotels or homes, and thankfully, I can actually commend the council for once, as they are pushing a plan to have another once-in-a-generation redevelopment plan. This has involved them buying out the shopping centre, which has been controversial, but it's also been in tandem with us winning a government grant to help high streets across the country. With this grant, a master plan for the future of the site has been laid out. But of course, this is subject to change. The shopping centre will be opened up, essentially turning the roof into a canopy rather than making it an interior, opening it up to the Springs a little more. The empty shop currently next to Next would be demolished to open up for a main new entrance from the station. Alongside this new pedestrianised street, there would be more spaces for food outlets, workshops, And along the top, where Station Road is, there will be residential developments, with some room for ground for commercial use. And this will also incorporate the remains of the Midland Station into the building design. Now this will be built atop what is currently the car park for the shopping centre, so this will now become a multi-storey car park underneath these new developments and that pedestrianised street. It should have just over 400 spaces for cars. The project also involves opening up the River Wye more, as currently it is just a ditch, so this will include an open area of green and steps down to the riverside with potential for food outlets alongside the river behind the existing buildings on the high street. Another exciting part of the development is a building covering up Waitrose on the right hand side that would include public toilets, more underground parking and room for Buxton Elite College and or the University of Derby to utilise. There is also plans for a small residential building opposite and green areas to cover the backside of the current shopping centre where there aren't any new developments planned. I am in full support of this project. Buxton needs more apartment buildings that are not just for the retired. The Springs needs to diversify and lower the rents, of which opening it up should create the possibility to do so, as there is no longer a huge building to heat. It's also exciting having the potential of a new campus building for the college, as well as the idea of studio workshops along a new entranceway to the town from the railway station. And of course, it will cover up the eyesore of this building and its car parks. As it stands, only part of the redevelopment has moved forward, such as the plan for the former M&S building to be a hotel, which is currently going through planning permission, as well as another fund the town got by Historic England to improve some building facades, which has been great. Just show some examples of what they've done already. And I just hope the council can get it right, but maybe I've got my hopes up. Maybe this is not what Buxton needs. If you've got an opinion, please share it down below. And now to finish off the video, I have cleaned up one full wheelbarrow worth of rubbish from the streets, and that's pretty much it. So I hope you've enjoyed, and until next time, ta-ra.